Moving on to who might be a Stanley Cup champion at this point, the Dallas Stars take game one over the Winnipeg Jets 3-2 on a natural hat trick by Mikko Rantanen, who might be the hottest hockey player in the entire world right now. Even better than Connor McDavid. He is on another planet right now. The revenge tour is in full effect. The man has 14 points in his last 4 games. It is unreal what this guy is doing. It is insane what he is doing. Let's just get your guys' thoughts on his performance from game one, and then we'll go into Dallas and taking home ice advantage away from Winnipeg.
I mean, for me, like that's the key is Rantanen, right? Like everyone seems to have forgotten how much of a playoff performer he's been in the past because he went to Carolina and then obviously that didn't seem to work out right away, and then got to Dallas, and I think there was a little bit of anxiety at least there about what it was going to look like, and he maybe wasn't up to his performance. Obviously, moving around as much as he has can't be easy, but as soon as it seemed like game one, he's kind of been on a different level. I've been really excited to watch him play, and I think he's deserving of everything that's happening. He's really, especially with key guys like Robertson and Heiskanen, like he was more of an addition even than you can say he would have been if those guys were healthy. So I think he's done a great job in helping them obviously get past his former team and all the emotions around that, and to perform as well as he has been fantastic. So yeah, I think our early Conn Smythe favorite so far if they were to get that far.
Yeah, easily. And look, like, yeah, leading the league in points. And I think we talked about this either on this show or it may have been mentioned by like Christian and Dave on the hockey podcast that we have. But going in, Mikko Rantanen, before this playoffs, I had to do some math looking at his hockey DB to get the numbers right. But he played 81 playoff games before this year, and he had 101 points. So like this Mikko Rantanen really is nothing new. But a lot of the doubters were suggesting that obviously like Nathan MacKinnon plays a huge factor in Mikko Rantanen's performance. And I think that's still possible to some degree that he elevated it. I don't think that's newsworthy, but the playoffs are still a different beast. And we've seen, even as Leafs fans, and again, we're done talking about the Leafs, but we've seen people like the Matthews and the Marner, when the lights are brightest, they sometimes will shrivel. And Mikko Rantanen, even now without Nathan MacKinnon, it's very clear that he is in the spotlight. And even when he was playing for Colorado, like playoffs are different, regardless of who your line mates are. You have to put the team on your back sometimes. So I don't like that excuse. And clearly he's proving it this year. Like there's something going on in Dallas, man. I don't know what it is. If it's the green lights that are going down the stairs in the arena or what, but Rantanen deserves all the credit he deserves. It must suck to even be an Avs fan watching the playoffs now, being like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah, it must be an absolute disappointment. I know Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland had their postseason presser. We're going to get to it a little bit later in the NHL news roundup, but I had to double check this because this is absolutely ridiculous. The all-time points per game leaders in the playoffs, Mikko Rantanen sits 7th at 1.3 points per game. And that's ahead of people like Mark Messier, Bobby Orr, Mike Bossy, Yari Curry, Peter Forsberg, and Sidney Crosby. That is insanity. This guy is insane. Nathan MacKinnon is just above him at 1.316 points per game. So they're neck and neck. They do the exact same thing. Listen, if you're Colorado and you know what you have gotten out of him for the last decade in the playoffs, and what is everyone chasing? Playoff performers. This guy is an all-time playoff performer, and you just gave him to Carolina, in all fairness. You tried to give him to the East, and then he gets shipped back to the West, and he's just going to make you regret this for the whole 8 years. And I don't think Joe Sakic is going to let this down. But moving on from the Moose, because this guy is, obviously the Conn Smythe favorite right now, if we have to give one out right now. Moving on from them, Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets. Listen, I don't think that you can play, or there was any chance that the Winnipeg Jets were going to be able to play with the same emotion as Game 7, coming off that big of a high and going back to Game 1. But even though the start was terrible from them, I liked how they got into the game later on, and I thought they competed well. Connor Hellebuck, to me, had an I don't want to say he cost them the game, because those shots are ridiculous from Rantanen, and he has no chance on 2 of them at least.
Yeah.
And I would say he had a decent performance. Like, he wasn't superstar material, but he didn't cost them, or he didn't have a lacklustrous game like he did, like when you're looking at him in Game 7 or Game 6 and Game 5. Like, what was your guys' evaluation of Connor Hellebuck in Game 1?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you said. I saw like 1 or 2 comments online basically just saying like, oh, like Hellebuck again, like didn't perform. And you look, I think his save percentage was like 875, but it's first of all, there's so many factors to numbers in the NHL that sometimes one number doesn't stand out. I think he let in 3 goals for 24 shots. And it's just the math there that makes his numbers look bad. If you watch the game or even the highlights, like you said, Justin, 1 goal deflects off Dylan Sandberg's shin guard, and 1 he doesn't quite grab. So obviously, like, Mikko Rantanen puts the puck in. And Sandberg, again, I like Sandberg as a player, but he didn't have his guy in Mikko Rantanen. He scored as he was falling over. So I think Hellebuck played good. He made some big saves when he needed to. And like, the emotion for both of those teams was probably dying down. And Winnipeg woke up, and they just weren't able to put any more pucks past Jake Ottinger, who had a sensational game on the other end of the ice. So I think Hellebuck played fine. And I don't think this series he necessarily has to be like beast mode and he has to play unbelievable. It's possible that changes early, and I eat my words, because Dallas does have some superstars and Jason Robertson rounding into form, but you're not playing Mark Scheifele. And like, that's huge. He's been their offensive dynamo all year, and he's been top 5 in goals scored in the regular season, and their emotional leader, I'm sure, as well. So it sucks to lose Game 1, especially at home. And Dallas, I don't think has won a Game 1 in a long time. So good for them. But I still think the Jets, again, just a product of like an emotional Game 7. They weren't in it right away in the first 10 minutes, but they eventually woke up, and it just couldn't get it past.
No, you're right. I think the Scheifele injury, even though he did come back, I think he scored the second goal for the Jets. He's still not going to be himself. It's similar to the Tkachuk situation.
Sweet feed from Gabriel Velarde in the slot. Yeah. Like, on the forecheck, it was an absolute snipe from Scheifele.
Yeah. And even like the Niederreiter goal, I think, like you said, Justin, I agree. The Jets were hemmed in early. They couldn't really get going. They scored the first goal in the second period somehow. Niederreiter, I didn't really like that goal from Ottinger, even though he played great pretty much the rest of the game. But like, for the most part, like, Winnipeg should feel pretty good. They stuck with it. I think Dallas could have kind of ran away with that game. I think Hellebuck helped get them early on, kind of settled things down and allowed them to keep going. Maybe, if you want to, like, you could complain about a small stretch in the second period, obviously, where he allows the 3 goals, but one of them's on the power play. I think the even strength goals were 2-2. So when you look at things that way, Winnipeg should be, obviously they're going to be disappointed with the loss, but they did a lot of good things later in the game, and I think they can still feel good about their chances in this series. The huge thing is just both these teams are missing their number 1 D-men, and what are you going to do in that situation, right? Guys are stepping up, and at that point, it's just about who is the deeper team, and I think most people would probably agree that Dallas is maybe more so, especially in the top end, just a little bit deeper, and maybe the goaltending will be the difference once we get to the later games. But this should be a fantastic series as well. We haven't. It's every series in the West so far has been fantastic, and I think this is just going to continue.
I said this actually at baseball or softball on Tuesday night. I said to Alex and Eric, who's one of our friends off that works at Sportsnet, I said, like, any of the 8 teams, I would not be shocked at this point if they won the cup. Like, they're all deep and talented. Like, there's not going to be like a Cinderella story team that wins the cup that you're just going to be like, how did they make it? Or like, am I shocked that they won? I don't think so. All 8 teams are so deep. Like, they're so good. But I want to go back, just wrap up this Jets Stars series. Is game 2 a must win for the Winnipeg Jets? Or do you think going down 2-0, there's still a chance that they could come back?
I mean, I would say that they should feel like they need to win it. I don't think it's a must win in terms of their season won't be over if they do lose. But I would say that they should be acting like it is, because it'll be very tough, especially for that team with some of the injuries that we talked about and just their style of play. It'll be tough to hold Dallas down for, for the next 5 games if they were to go down 2-0. And I think at this point winning game 2 is of dire importance, unless they feel they can really go into Dallas and take 2 there. So that's where I think they're at.
I think it's fair. Yeah, I think it's not as much of a must win as maybe you'd look at other series and think if you lost home advantage, especially after the game 1, that they would have to win game 2. But I think what's important, and I just said that Connor Hellebuyck doesn't have to be like a beast. He doesn't have to be the guy that saves the whole series for them, but he does need to perform well. Like if Dallas loses and it's another Hellebuyck blowout, like that's a major problem, because then you have the question marks again. If there's another game like this where Dallas wins 3-2 or Hellebuyck makes some good saves, but a couple chintzy ones get by that he had no chance to stop, then I think it's less panic time because he's dialed in. It's a problem if Hellebuyck, has to get pulled or lets in 4 or 5, because then the alarm bells are sounding.